Stop eating it, dummy.
No, I like it. It was good.
I never thought inspiration would hit me in front of a grilled corn stand. That day, I was stressing about next month's bills, while my son was chomping on a Cobb slathered in chili sauce face, all scrunched up, eyes watering, but his mouth didn't stop. He was sniffing and still saying, "It's so good." Right then, it hit me. This wasn't just spicy, it was addictive, and out of nowhere, I thought, what if chips tasted like this? They said Mexican flavor isn't classy enough, but what I saw was the power of taste, a spark of culture. I'm no scientist, but I knew this heat could blaze a trail. So our whole family went nuts trying stuff out. We bought every kind of chili pepper we could find at the supermarket. The kitchen turned into a lab, pots of hot sauce bubbling nonstop, and I even turned the hamster wheel into a mixer. We weren't just making sauce, we were betting on our future, but every new batch we tested ended the same way. Someone screaming and running for water. We laughed, we coughed, but we kept hoping. By then, other factories were already using syringes and test tubes. One drop of artificial spice and boom, double the heat, half the cost. But I knew that wasn't the real flavor. Where am I from? I'm from a tin roof shack next to a farm in Mexico. I grew up with flavors that came straight from the dirt, real vegetables, real taste, and I wasn't about to betray that. I didn't want to mix up some generic product for the market. I wanted a flavor that hits home, that gets you hooked, that you'll remember for life. So our whole family went all over town hunting for the right chilies, tasting them one by one, mixing them by hand. I wasn't copying some recipe. I was building something that felt like us, a dream poor folks could make and still see on a shelf. And finally we nailed it, a flavor that burned and hooked at the same time.
Burns good or burns bad?
It burned good.
We had the recipe, but when I pitched this spicy idea, all I got was laughter. My boss looked at me like I was crazy. "Why don't you go pitch it to the CEO while you're at it?" He was being sarcastic. I took it literally. I pulled out the company directory, flipped through every page, and finally dialed the number. He was in Italy. I was in a storage room at the factory, and right there, I made the most important call of my life. I poured every bit of honesty I had into those few minutes. I wasn't begging for approval. I just wanted him to know, "You might not get us, but you should taste what we've made."
Richard, that's more than okay with me.
A few days later, we shipped out a whole box of samples. That night, I couldn't sleep. What if no one calls back? What if I get reported? But then the phone rang. The CEO said he ate one chip, then another, and then couldn't stop. Didn't even wipe his hands before calling me back. But the miracle didn't bring applause. It brought a storm. He said he was flying in to visit the factory himself. My bosses, they freaked out. They scrambled to find out who the hell alerted headquarters. Before I could even explain, the entire management team chewed me out in front of everyone. They said if this idea flopped and the factory's losses kept going, the company would pull the plug. No more funding, no more factory, everyone out of a job.
You better pray for a miracle, Montañez, because before this is over, one way or another, you won't have a job.
My hands were shaking. All I could think was, did I screw up? Did I drag everyone down with me? That day, I went home without saying a word, didn't even take my shoes off. It was Judy who stopped me. She didn't blame me. She just patted my shoulder and said, "It's okay if you don't trust them, but you've got to trust yourself."
Enrico? It's coming to here. You speak.
She helped me go over my pitch, wrote down every buzzword, stat, and line those execs love to hear. We studied like students cramming for the biggest test of our lives, because in a way, we were. And when the CEO finally showed up, I put on the first real suit I'd ever owned.
I'm so proud of you, Will.
I thought I'd never be that nervous again in my life. But when Roger's car pulled up in front of the factory, I finally understood what people meant by a turning point. It wasn't just a car, it was a door to a whole new life. He was on a tight schedule, didn't waste time, just called me straight into the meeting room and asked for a product report. The script in my hand was full of corporate fluff, dry as dust, like I was reading someone else's life. I couldn't keep going. That wasn't me. So I ditched the script, held up the bag of Fuego Locos, and told him about it the only way I knew how. It's hot. It's bold. It hits you like a punch, like a spoonful of my mom's homemade Mexican chili soup.
How much would your product yield?
This much.
The exec started laughing, but not in a mean way. More like, okay, this guy's actually kind of something. I didn't even know what market share meant, so I just walked over and pointed out how much shelf space we could take up. And you know what? I didn't feel embarrassed at all, because they saw something real in me. An outsider's honesty. Maybe that's what got to them. That little bit of rule-breaking heart. Then I saw Roger. He stood up, mimicked my move, like he was slicing the air. No one expected it. He greenlit the investment on the spot, completely ignoring the factory manager's fancy but flavorless data. I really thought things were finally turning around, but life, it wasn't done testing me yet. After Fuego Locos hit the shelves, sales sucked. The bags just sat there like time forgot them. Not a single one sold. The factory manager made a cold call, shut it down, and I felt like the whole world just slammed me down and slapped me in the face. I started wondering if they were right. Maybe I'm just a cleaner, meant to stay behind the broom. I didn't want to go to the factory, didn't want to talk to anyone. I went home and curled up on the couch like a deflated balloon, but Judy didn't give up on me. She watched me stay silent and only got more determined. "You're not beaten," she said. "You just haven't finished the fight yet." That night I couldn't sleep. Talking with my family, I realized the factory hadn't even advertised Fuego Locos. Seeing me so down, my oldest son gave me all the allowance he'd saved up and pushed me to start promoting it myself. I nearly cried. Not because I'd failed, but because even before I'd fallen, they were already helping me up. I figured it out. We didn't lose to the flavor, we lost to the silence. Nobody knew about us, so I reached out to some old friends from back in the day, and their mouths were sharper than any billboard, so we started the most street-level, direct sales campaign. Fuego Locos bags got stuffed into cars, delivered to neighborhoods, dropped off in alleys. I even went to the supermarket myself and bought every bag off the shelf. Customers watched me curious, and I just smiled, telling them, this isn't just a snack, it's the soul of Mexico. They took a bite, and their eyes lit up. Soon, crazy crowds were sweeping through the streets and alleys, started asking, where's this spicy flavor coming from? Sales surged like a flood, and the first quarter report landed on Roger's desk. He called the factory director to ask how much had been spent on advertising. The answer, not a single cent. All thanks to me, just a cleaner, and my mouth plus a crew of brothers. Roger immediately placed an order for 5 million bags. That night, the factory, which was almost declared dead, roared back to life. All the production lines started clanking like a heartbeat waking up. The factory manager rushed to call back laid-off workers. The workshop lit up bright. People worked overtime all night. We weren't just making snacks. We were building dreams. Dreams of the people at the bottom. 6 months ago, I couldn't sleep, worried my idea wouldn't survive. 6 months later, the factory hummed nonstop, shining like it used to. I thought it was a dream, until Baker smiled and reached out his hand to me again.
Now looking at the new plant manager in Bakersfield.
Like we were meeting for the first time. I felt happy for him, but then suddenly looked down, feeling a little awkward. I'm still just a cleaner, right? Still holding a broom, cleaning up grease on the factory floor like so many days before. But that day, they called me upstairs to a place I'd never dared to hope for. It was an office I used to avoid. CEO Roger stood at the door, like he'd been waiting a long time. In his eyes, no condescension, just a brotherly kind of certainty.
Show us the big plans you have for marketing to your community.
Then he slid a card labeled Marketing Director into the door's card slot. I froze for a moment. Turns out holding a broom can lead to a desk. Turns out the taste of hot sauce can spice up your destiny. Applause rang behind me as I slowly stepped into that office, sat down, and slipped into a role I'd never worn before. I called Judy, my voice shaking as I said, we did it. On the other end, she just laughed. That kind of laugh, I'll never forget it.
I'm so proud of you.
I never imagined that a cleaner who learned to fix machines just by eavesdropping on engineers could become one of the top execs in the company, but I know it wasn't luck. It was stubbornness, refusing to accept fate, a big mouth, a family, a crew of brothers, and a bag of insanely spicy chips that got me here. Now, Fuego Locos is a billion-dollar brand, and I'm finally standing on a stage that was never meant for me, but I know I earned every step, and right by my side still is Judy. The very first taste of spice in my life. 48 years of ups and downs. We're no fairy tale prince or princess, but we're real comrades in the fight. People say behind every successful man is a great woman. I want to say this. Without her, I'd probably have been knocked down for good the very first time life knocked me down. Even now, I still sometimes walk past that workshop, watching the young people in their blue uniforms. I see myself in them, the me holding a broom, but with the universe in my heart. And I want to tell them this. Where you come from should never decide where you end up.